I paid $90,000 for my son's wedding, then got banned from his life 2 weeks later. That's when I canceled all 45 vendor payments. Jake thought he was smart. Harvard, MBA, fancy Dallas job, new wife from a family of lawyers. They had it all figured out. Get the old rancher to pay for everything, then have him declared mentally incompetent so they could grab what's left. $23,000. That's what the nursing home deposit cost. The one with my forged signature that showed up in yesterday's mail. I didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't even feel shocked. I just sat in my kitchen, looked at that receipt, and started laughing. Because Jake made one fatal mistake. He assumed a 62-year-old cattle rancher from Amarillo couldn't outsmart a Harvard boy and his lawyer wife. Poor kid never learned the first rule of ranch life. Always know who you're dealing with before you try to steal their cattle. If you've ever felt underestimated because of your age, you'll want to hear what happens next. The nursing home deposit was just the beginning of what I'd discover over the next 48 hours. Let me back up. 3 months ago, Martha's medical bills finally cleared probate. The ranch had been in our family since 1892. 4 generations of millers working the same 1,200 acres outside Amarillo. But cancer doesn't care about family legacy, and those final 6 months cost us everything we'd saved. So I made the hardest decision of my life, sold the ranch to Blackstone Agricultural Holdings for $847,000. Every acre, every building, every fence post I'd repaired with my own hands. Jake was relieved, said the ranch was holding me back from enjoying retirement. His exact words were, "Dad, you can finally live like a normal person instead of playing cowboy." Playing cowboy. 40 years of dawn to dusk work, and my Harvard-educated son called it plain. But I swallowed my pride. Took that money and moved into a little rental house in town. Figured I'd live simple, make it last. Maybe leave Jake something when my time came. Then he got engaged to Ashley Brown. Ashley's family owns 3 law firms across Texas. Her daddy's got oil money going back to the 1920s. Real old Austin society folks who use words like summer as a verbs and think anything north of Dallas might as well be Oklahoma. When Jake announced their engagement, Ashley made it crystal clear what kind of wedding she expected. Nothing from her family's usual vendors was under 5 figures. The venue alone, some historic lodge in Palo Duro Canyon, was $25,000 for one night. "Don't worry about the cost, Dad," Jake said during one of our planning calls. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We want it to be perfect." Ashley chimed in with her honey-sweet voice. "William, we just want you to be comfortable with whatever contribution feels right for you." Comfortable. Like I was some distant relative they were politely hitting up for gas money. But Martha always said marriage was about 2 families becoming one. So I opened my checkbook and started writing. Catering for 200 guests, $12,000. Photographer and videographer, $8,000. Flowers and decorations, $6,000. Band, bar service, transportation, wedding cake, it kept adding up. By the time June 15th rolled around, I'd spent $91,437. Nearly emptied my ranch sale account to give my son the wedding his wife wanted. And it was beautiful, I'll give them that. Ashley looked like something out of a magazine. Jake wore a tuxedo that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and every detail was Instagram perfect. I sat in the 3rd row, not the front. Ashley's extended family needed those seats, and watched my boy promise to love and honor this woman who'd already started planning how to spend my money. During the reception, I tried to make conversation with Ashley's parents. Her mother, Patricia, smiled politely when I mentioned my ranching background. Her father, Charles, actually turned his back and walked away when I started talking about cattle prices. Ashley's grandmother, Eleanor, was more direct. She pulled Ashley aside during the father-daughter dance and said loud enough for half the wedding party to hear, "At least the old man paid for everything up front. Saves us from having to collect later." I pretended not to hear that. The honeymoon was supposed to be 2 weeks in Italy. Jake hugged me goodbye at the airport, thanked me for making their dreams come true, and promised we'd get together for dinner when they got back. That was June 17th. July 2nd, I got a call from Dr. Patricia Anderson's office. Someone had scheduled an appointment for me without my knowledge, a cognitive assessment that I apparently desperately needed. July 5th, Ashley called. Not Jake Ashley. Her voice had lost all that honey sweetness from the wedding planning calls. William, we need to discuss your living situation. Jake and I have been talking, and we're concerned about your ability to maintain your independence. I asked what she meant. Well, you're living alone in that little rental house. You don't have any real social connections since Martha passed, and frankly, some of your recent financial decisions show questionable judgment. Questionable judgment. Like spending my own money on my own son's wedding. We found a lovely assisted living facility, she continued. Sunset Manor has an excellent reputation, and they have an immediate opening. We've already put down a deposit to hold your spot. That's when I asked the question that changed everything. Who signed the paperwork for that deposit, Ashley? Long pause. Well, Jake has power of attorney now, so... No, he doesn't. Another pause. William, I think you're confused. Jake showed me the documents. Show me. I don't think that's necessary. The important thing is getting you the care you need. Care I needed. From a woman who'd known me for 8 months and had spent exactly 0 of those months caring about anything except my bank account. That night I drove over to Sunset Manor. Nice place, I'll admit. $23,000 deposit for a premium suite overlooking the garden. The paperwork was all there in the office, filed and official. My signature was on every page. Problem was, I'd never set foot in that building before in my life. That's when Ashley made her fatal error. She decided to get Jake involved in what she probably thought would be a simple conversation with a confused old man. July 8th, 3 days after my Sunset Manor discovery, my phone rang at 6:30 in the morning. Jake's number, but when I answered, I could hear Ashley coaching him in the background. Dad, we need to talk. Jake's voice sounded strained, like he was reading from a script. Ashley and I are worried about you. I switched on the recording app I'd downloaded to my phone. Old dog, new tricks. What exactly are you worried about, son? Well, you're showing signs of confusion. Memory problems. Dr. Patterson thinks you might be developing dementia. Which Dr. Patterson would that be, Jake? Because I've never heard of any Dr. Patterson, I heard Ashley whisper something, then Jake cleared his throat. Dad, that's exactly what we're talking about. You met with Dr. Patterson last month. You don't remember because your short-term memory is deteriorating. Is that right? What did this Dr. Patterson and I discuss? Your cognitive decline. The unsafe living conditions in your rental house. The need for professional supervision. I could hear Ashley getting impatient in the background. Then she grabbed the phone. William, this is exactly the kind of paranoid, defensive behavior Dr. Patterson warned us about. You're becoming a danger to yourself. Ashley, sweetheart, I've got a question for you. Of course, William. We're here to help. If I'm so confused and paranoid, how did I manage to write $91,000 worth of checks for your wedding without making a single mistake? Silence. I mean, that's pretty impressive cognitive function for someone with dementia, don't you think? Every vendor paid exactly the right amount, every contract signed correctly, every bank transfer processed without a hitch. More silence. Hell, I even remembered to tip the valet parking guys an extra $200 because you specifically asked me to. That's some pretty detailed memory work for a man who can't remember meeting doctors. Jake got back on the phone. Dad, you're not making sense? We're trying to help you. Help me what, exactly? Live safely. Manage your finances responsibly. Get the medical care you need. And who's going to manage my finances while I'm getting this medical care? Ashley grabbed the phone again. William, that's not the issue here. The issue is your health and safety. Humor me. Who handles my money if I'm declared incompetent? Well, Jake would need to take over those responsibilities, but Jake? Who just spent $90,000 of my dollars on his wedding? That Jake. William, you gave us that money willingly. I did. And now you want to take the rest of it unwillingly. We're not trying to take anything. We're trying to protect you from making poor financial decisions. I started laughing. Couldn't help myself. Ashley, darling, let me ask you something else. How many cattle operations have you managed? I don't see what that has to do with how many drought years have you survived? How many times have you negotiated with feed suppliers, veterinarians, equipment dealers, and commodity buyers? William, this isn't about ranching. How many times have you calculated carrying capacity for grazing land, planned breeding schedules, or managed seasonal cash flow for an agricultural operation? That's completely irrelevant to your current mental state. Is it? Because I did all of those things successfully for 40 years. built a business that supported my family, paid for Jake's education, and left me with enough money to sell for nearly $900,000. But now, 8 weeks after writing your wedding checks, I'm suddenly too incompetent to manage my own affairs? Jake jumped back in. Dad, ranching and personal finances are different things. You're right, son. Personal finances are a hell of a lot simpler than ranching. No weather variables, no livestock diseases, no commodity price fluctuations. Just basic arithmetic and common sense. Ashley's voice got sharper. William Dr. Patterson specifically noted your tendency toward grandiose thinking about your past accomplishments. That's a classic symptom of... Which brings me back to my original question. What's Dr. Patterson's first name? Silence. What medical school did he attend? What's his office address? When exactly did I meet with him? More silence. Because I've been thinking about it, and I can't seem to recall this appointment that I apparently forgot I had. Funny thing about that. Jake tried to recover. Dad, that's exactly the problem. You can't remember important medical appointments. Or maybe, just maybe, there never was an appointment. Maybe there never was a doctor. Patterson, maybe you two cooked up this whole dementia story to justify stealing my money. Ashley's mask finally slipped. William, you clearly can't handle complex financial decisions anymore. The nursing home deposit proves you're confused about your own affairs. The nursing home deposit? Yes, let's talk about that. What about it? Who signed the paperwork, Ashley? You did, obviously. Show me the security footage. What? Sunset Manor has security cameras in their office. Show me the footage of me signing those papers. Another long silence. Or better yet, I continued, let's call them right now and ask them to describe the man who came in to make that deposit. Height, weight, age, distinguishing characteristics. William, I think you're having an episode because I'm 6'2", Jake's 5'8", and I'm really curious which one of us they remember meeting. The line went quiet except for whispers arguing in the background. Then Jake came back on. Dad, we'll call you back later when you're feeling more rational. They hung up. I sat there looking at my phone, at the little recording icon that had been running for the entire conversation. 43 minutes and 18 seconds of Ashley and Jake trying to gaslight a supposedly senile old man into giving up his life savings. Poor kids had no idea they'd just handed me everything I needed to destroy them. 45 vendors were about to get a very interesting phone call from me. I spent that evening going through every wedding contract, every receipt, every bank statement from Jake's big day. Turns out, when you're paying for 90% of someone's wedding, your name ends up on a lot of paperwork. The catering contract with Hill Country Events, $12,400, signed by William Miller, paid by William Miller. The venue contract with Palo Duro, Canyon Lodge, $25,000, signed by William Miller, paid by William Miller. Photography and videography with Martinez. Creative Studios, $8,200. You guessed it, signed and paid by yours truly. Ashley might have picked the vendors, but I was the one legally obligated to pay them. And according to Texas contract law, something I'd learned plenty about during 40 years of cattle buying, the person who signs the contract has certain rights regarding payment, including the right to cancel within 30 days if services weren't delivered as promised. Now the vendors had delivered their services just fine. Beautiful wedding, gorgeous photos, happy couple dancing until midnight. But there was one service that hadn't been delivered as promised. Family inclusion. See, when I signed those contracts, I wasn't just paying for flowers and food. I was paying for the privilege of being Jake's father at his wedding. The assumption was that spending my life savings would earn me a place in their family going forward. Instead, I got a forged nursing home deposit and a lecture about my failing mental capacity. That felt like breach of contract to me. I started with the biggest vendor first, called Palo Duro Canyon Lodge at 8 a.m. sharp on July 9th. This is William Miller. I paid for the Miller Brown wedding on June 15th. I need to speak with your event coordinator about a payment issue. 10 minutes later, I was connected to Sandra Martinez, the woman who'd walked me through every detail of Ashley's dream venue. Mr. Miller, how wonderful to hear from you. I hope Jake and Ashley loved their reception. The photos looked absolutely stunning. Sandra, I need to reverse my payment for the venue. Long pause. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I'm exercising my right to cancel the contract and reverse the $25,000 payment. Mr. Miller, the wedding was almost a month ago. The services have been rendered. The services were rendered, but the contract terms weren't met. I don't understand. What terms weren't met? The family inclusion clause. Another pause. Sir, there's no family inclusion clause in our standard contract. There is in mine. When a father pays for his son's wedding venue, there's an implied understanding that he'll remain part of the family. That understanding has been violated. Mr. Miller, I think there might be some confusion. No confusion, Sandra. I have a recording of my son and daughter-in-law trying to have me declared mentally incompetent so they can steal my remaining assets. Would you like me to play it for you? Silence. The way I see it, they defrauded me, used my emotional attachment to my son to extract money under false pretenses. That makes our contract null and void. Sir, I'm going to need to speak with our legal department. You do that. But while you're speaking with them, ask them this. When a customer pays $25,000 for a family celebration, and that family immediately tries to destroy the customer's life, doesn't that constitute grounds for reversal? I hung up and moved on to the next vendor. Hill Country Catering was more resistant. The owner, Patricia Williams, got downright hostile when I explained the situation. Mr. Miller, you can't just decide you don't like your family anymore and demand your money back. I'm not demanding anything, Patricia. I'm informing you that I was defrauded. My son and his wife took my money, knowing they planned to have me committed and steal my remaining assets. That's criminal fraud, and it voids our contract. That's between you and your family. We provided the catering services as agreed. Did you know they were planning to steal from me when you accepted my payment? Of course not. Then you were an unwitting participant in a fraud scheme, which means you received stolen money. That got her attention. Mr. Miller, are you threatening legal action? I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing before this becomes a legal matter. Return my $12,400 or explain to a judge why you're keeping money that was obtained through elder abuse. By noon, I'd called 18 vendors, photographers, florists, musicians, transportation companies, cake decorators, every single business that had received my money for Jake's perfect day. Some were sympathetic, others were angry, a few hung up on me, but they all understood one thing. A man who could systematically work through 45 vendor contracts in one morning wasn't suffering from dementia. My phone started ringing around 2 p.m. Jake's number. I let it go to voicemail. Then Ashley called, also ignored. Then Jake again, and again. The fifth call, I finally answered. Dad, what the hell are you doing? Protecting my assets from theft, son? Just like you taught me. But the real surprise was waiting in my truck when I got back from my vendor calling marathon. Jake's silver BMW X5 was parked in my driveway. He was sitting on my front porch steps, head in his hands, looking like someone had just told him his Harvard degree was fake. I walked past him, unlocked my front door, and went inside. Left the door open behind me. He followed me in, and I could see Ashley sitting in the passenger seat of the BMW talking frantically on her phone. Dad, you can't do this. Do what, exactly? Cancel the vendor payments. These people are calling us demanding money we don't have. I poured myself a glass of iced tea and sat down at my kitchen table. Interesting problem, son. What do you plan to do about it? We can't pay them back. We spent our honeymoon money, and Ashley's student loans are maxed out. We thought... You thought what? Jake looked like he was going to be sick. We thought you'd already paid everything. We thought it was done. It was done. Until you tried to steal my house, my freedom, and what's left of my life savings. We weren't trying to steal anything. I pulled out my phone and hit play on yesterday's recording. Ashley's voice filled the room. William, you clearly can't handle complex financial decisions anymore. The nursing home deposit proves you're confused about your own affairs. Jake's face went white. Sit down, son. Let's have an honest conversation for once. He collapsed into the chair across from me. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You and Ashley have until Friday to come up with $67,432. That's what the vendors are demanding in immediate payment. Dad, we don't have that kind of money. Then you'll need to get creative. Maybe Ashley's oil money family can help. Maybe you can take out a loan against your Harvard MBA earning potential. Why are you doing this to us? I slid a piece of paper across the table, the Sunset Manor deposit receipt with my forged signature. Because you forged my name to steal $23,000. Because you tried to have me declared mentally incompetent. Because you planned to steal everything I have left after I already gave you everything I could afford. Jake stared at the receipt. That wasn't my idea. Whose idea was it? Silence. Jake, I raised you better than this. When your mother was dying, she made me promise to take care of you. I sold our family ranch to keep that promise. I gave you $90,000 for a party that lasted 6 hours. My voice stayed calm, but I could feel 40 years of fatherhood behind every word. And 2 weeks later, you conspired with your wife to rob me of my independence, my dignity, and my remaining savings. So here's the deal. I leaned forward. You can either figure out how to pay those vendors, or you can explain to a bankruptcy judge why a Harvard MBA couldn't manage his own wedding finances. Your choice. Jake's phone buzzed. Text message. He looked at it and winced. Martinez Creative Studios is threatening to sue us for the photography bill. Sounds like a problem you need to solve. Dad, please. We made a mistake. Ashley was just trying to help. By having me committed, she thought you were showing signs of confusion. Based on what evidence, Jake? He couldn't answer. Based on the fact that I have money, and she wants it. That's the only evidence. Another text message. This one made Jake actually groan. The florist wants her $6,000 back by tomorrow, or she's filing a lien against our apartment. Better call Daddy's oil money connections. Ashley's family cut her off when she married me. They said she was marrying beneath her station. That was news to me. Is that right? They only showed up to the wedding because we told them you were paying for everything. They figured if you could afford a $90,000 wedding, you must be worth keeping around. The picture was getting clearer. Ashley's family wanted nothing to do with Jake, but they were happy to let me fund their daughter's lifestyle. So let me understand this. Ashley's rich family won't help her, but she thought she could steal my money to maintain her standard of living. Jake nodded miserably. And you went along with this plan because I wanted her to be happy. Because I thought you had more money than you needed? Because I figured you'd never find out about the nursing home thing. Never find out about the forgery, you mean? It wasn't supposed to be permanent. Ashley said we'd just get power of attorney, manage your finances responsibly, and make sure you were taken care of. By putting me in an institution against my will. By getting you proper care. I held up my hand. Jake, stop. Just stop lying. His phone rang, Ashley calling. Answer it. Put it on speaker. He hesitated, then answered. Ashley, I'm here with Dad. Did you fix this? Her voice was sharp with panic. Because the catering company just served us with papers. They want $12,400 plus legal fees, and they want it now. Ashley, he's right here, and you're on speaker. Pause. Then her voice changed to fake sweetness. Oh, hi, William. I didn't realize. Hello, Ashley. How's that dementia evaluation coming along? William, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding was thinking you could outsmart a man who negotiated cattle deals for 40 years. We never intended... Ashley, sweetheart, I've got every conversation recorded. Your intentions are crystal clear. Silence. Here's what's going to happen. You and Jake are going to pay every single vendor that I've canceled. You're going to do it by Friday. And you're never going to contact Sunset Manor, Dr. Patterson, or any other fictional medical professional about my mental capacity again. And if we can't pay the vendors, then you'll learn what real financial stress feels like. Just like I did when I sold my family's century-old ranch to pay for your party. I hung up the phone and looked at my son. 40 years, Jake. That's how long I worked that ranch. And I gave it up for you. He was crying now. The question is, what are you willing to give up for me? The bank president had something interesting to show us when Jake and Ashley tried their next move. Friday morning, July 12th, I was having coffee with my neighbor when my phone rang. Rebecca Taylor from First National Bank of Amarillo. Mr. Miller, I need you to come down here immediately. There's been an attempt to access your accounts that requires your immediate attention. 20 minutes later, I walked into the bank to find Jake and Ashley sitting in Rebecca's office, looking like they'd been caught stealing candy. Rebecca's been the bank president for 15 years. Knows every rancher in the county, and she'd handled my ranch sale transaction personally. William, sit down. We have a problem. Then she slid a power of attorney document across her desk. Your son and daughter-in-law presented this document 30 minutes ago, claiming legal authority to access your accounts. I looked at the paperwork. Official letterhead, legal language, and my signature at the bottom. Rebecca, I've never seen this document before in my life. That's what I thought you'd say. She opened a file folder. I took the liberty of comparing this signature to your signature cards from the past 10 years. She spread out 6 different signature samples. Bank documents, loan papers, the ranch sale contract. Notice anything different? I did. My real signature has a distinctive loop in the W that comes from 40 years of signing cattle sale receipts with work gloves on. The power of attorney's signature was too neat, too careful. This isn't my signature, Ashley spoke up. William, you're confused again. You signed this last month when we discussed your financial planning. Rebecca cleared her throat. Ma'am, I need to inform you that forgery of banking documents is a federal crime. There's no forgery here, Ashley said. William is having memory issues. That's why we need power of attorney in the first place. Is that right? Rebecca pulled out another folder. Because I have security footage from every day this month. Would you like to see which days, mister? Miller visited our bank? Ashley's face went pale. Or we could call the handwriting expert I consulted this morning. She's very interested in testifying about signature analysis if this becomes a legal matter. Jake finally spoke. There's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I said. You forged my signature. Again. Rebecca leaned forward. Mr. Miller, I need to ask you directly. Do you want to press charges for attempted bank fraud? I looked at Jake, my son. The boy I'd taught to ride horses, helped with homework, walked to his Harvard graduation. Not today. But I want this incident documented in writing. Already done. Rebecca handed me a formal complaint form. This goes into their file. Any future attempts to access your accounts without proper authorization will result in immediate criminal charges. Ashley stood up. This is ridiculous. William, you clearly need help managing your finances. Actually, Rebecca interrupted, Mr. Miller's financial management has been exemplary. He recently completed the largest real estate transaction in the county, negotiated favorable terms with Blackstone Agricultural, and has maintained perfect account standing for over 20 years. She looked directly at Ashley. Does that sound like someone who needs a conservator? Jake tried one last time. Dad, we're just trying to protect you. From what, exactly? From making poor decisions with your money. I laughed. Son, the only poor decision I made was trusting you with $90,000. Rebecca handed them a document. This is a formal cease and desist order. Any further attempts to access Mr. Miller's accounts, forge his signature, or claim legal authority over his finances will result in immediate prosecution. Ashley grabbed the paper. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Rebecca said. Security will escort you out now. As they left, Rebecca turned to me. William, I've seen elder financial abuse before. This was textbook fraud attempt. I know. Are you going to be okay? Rebecca, I've been handling my own money since before these kids were born. I think I'll manage. But as I walked to my truck, I realized Jake and Ashley weren't going to give up this easily. They had no idea what they were dealing with, but they were about to find out. They had no idea about my insurance policy when they decided to wage war on social media. Sunday morning, July 14th, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. All from people I'd known for decades, all asking the same question. William, are you okay? Turns out Jake and Ashley had spent their weekend crafting a very different narrative about our family situation. Ashley's Facebook post, shared at 11 p.m. Saturday night, had already been shared 237 times. It breaks my heart to share this, but Jake's father is suffering from early-stage dementia and has become increasingly paranoid and hostile. Yesterday, he accused us of forging documents and threatened to destroy us financially. We're asking for prayers as we navigate this difficult time and try to get him the professional help he desperately needs. Eldercare, #dementia, #family struggles. The comments were exactly what you'd expect. Lots of heart emojis, lots of praying for your family, lots of people sharing their own dementia horror stories. Jake had posted his own version on LinkedIn. Dealing with a parent's cognitive decline is one of life's hardest challenges. My father, once a successful rancher, is now showing signs of paranoia and financial confusion. He's convinced we're trying to steal from him when we're actually trying to protect his assets from his own poor judgment. If you're facing similar challenges with aging parents, you're not alone. Hashtag elder care, hashtag leadership, hashtag family. First. That one had gotten 43 likes and 18 comments from his Dallas business contacts, all offering sympathy and advice about difficult family situations. But here's what Jake and Ashley didn't know. I'd been preparing for this exact scenario for 3 months. See, when you spend 40 years in the cattle business, you learn that reputation's everything. A rancher's word is his bond, and once people stop trusting you, you're finished. So the first rule of ranch life is never let anyone control your story. I'd already spoken to Patricia Wilson, our wedding photographer. She'd been uncomfortable with Ashley's behavior during the wedding planning, particularly the way Ashley talked about me when she thought I couldn't hear. Mr. Miller shall be to be puta. Miller be to bambi tu. I'm what? Patricia had told me during one of my vendor calls. That girl spent the entire reception talking about your money like it was already hers, made my skin crawl. Patricia wasn't just any photographer. She'd documented half the weddings in the Texas Panhandle over the past 20 years. When Patricia Wilson says something about a bride's character, people listen. I'd also been quietly having conversations with people who'd known me since before Jake was born. My banker Rebecca, obviously. Dr. Patricia Anderson, my family physician for 15 years. Tom Bradley, the sheriff who'd bought cattle from me for his small ranch. Sandra Martinez from the venue, who'd seen how sharp I was during our contract negotiations. These weren't random strangers. These were pillars of the community who could vouch for my mental capacity and character. Sunday afternoon, I made one phone call to Patricia Wilson. Patricia, I need a favor. Can you post those photos from Jake's wedding where I'm clearly engaged and alert? The ones Ashley didn't want in the final album because I was too prominent in them. Monday morning, Patricia's Facebook post went live. I've been photographing weddings for 20 years, and I've never seen a father of the groom more present, more engaged, or more mentally sharp than William Miller at his son's wedding 6 weeks ago. This man negotiated contract details with me that would challenge someone half his age. The accusations being made against him are not only false, they're cruel. I have photos and conversations that prove Mr. Miller's mental faculties are absolutely intact. This community should be ashamed of spreading these rumors. Number truth matters, number elder, abuse number, stand with William. Within hours, the story started shifting. People who'd known me for decades began commenting with their own experiences. Tom Bradley shared a story about me helping him negotiate a complex cattle purchase just last month. Dr. Anderson posted a carefully worded statement about patient confidentiality, but noting that certain recent claims about longtime patients are medically impossible based on recent examinations. By Tuesday, Ashley's post had generated a very different kind of attention. People were asking questions. If William Miller was so mentally impaired, how did he handle that massive ranch sale so competently? How did he manage all those wedding vendor contracts without a single error? How was he able to systematically contact 45 businesses in one day to reverse payments? Rebecca Taylor from the bank posted the most damaging comment of all. Mr. Miller conducted complex financial business with our institution as recently as last Friday. His mental acuity was remarkable, and his documentation of recent events was meticulous. Anyone claiming this man suffers from cognitive impairment has never actually spoken with him. Wednesday morning, Ashley deleted her original post, but the internet doesn't forget, and screenshot evidence doesn't disappear. Jake called me that evening. Dad, people are starting to ask questions. What kind of questions, son? About why we're trying to put you in a nursing home if you're obviously fine. That is a good question. What's your answer? Long silence. I think we need to talk. I think we do too, but not on the phone this time. The district attorney was very interested in what I had to say Thursday morning. I'd spent Tuesday and Wednesday organizing everything into what Martha used to call my lawsuit folders, the same meticulous filing system I'd used for 40 years, of cattle contracts, insurance claims, and government inspections. Folder 1, Financial Fraud Evidence. Bank statements showing the $847,000 ranch sale deposit on March 15th. Wedding expenses totaling $91,437, all paid between April 1st and June 10th. The forged Sunset Manor deposit receipt for $23,000, dated July 1st. Folder 2, Signature Analysis. 6 examples of my authentic signature from the past decade, compared to 3 forged documents. The nursing home paperwork, the attempted power of attorney at First National Bank, and what turned out to be a forged medical consent form that Dr. Martinez's office had received but never processed. Folder 3, Recorded Conversations. 4 hours and 17 minutes of audio, including Jake and Ashley's attempt to gaslight me about my mental capacity, their admission that they'd put down the nursing home deposit without my knowledge, and Ashley's statement that Jake had power of attorney now. Folder 4, Witness Statements. Written testimonies from Patricia Wilson, Rebecca Taylor, Dr. Patricia Anderson, Tom Bradley, and 12 vendor representatives who'd spoken with me during the payment cancellation calls. Every single person described me as mentally sharp, completely coherent, and obviously competent. Folder 5, Medical Documentation. Dr. Anderson had provided a formal cognitive assessment from my annual physical in May, 6 weeks before the wedding. Perfect scores on memory tests, logical reasoning, and financial comprehension. She'd also included a statement that no one had contacted her office requesting dementia evaluations or mental health assessments. District Attorney Sarah Thompson reviewed everything in 90 minutes. Mr. Miller, this is one of the clearest cases of attempted elder financial abuse I've seen in 15 years. What exactly are we looking at for charges? Forgery, identity theft, attempted fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes against a vulnerable adult. The recordings alone would be enough to convict, but with the signature analysis and witness testimony, this is bulletproof. She leaned back in her chair. The interesting thing is how sophisticated this scheme was. Most elder abuse cases involve immediate family members who just grab money and run. Your son and daughter-in-law created an elaborate long-term plan. How long-term? Based on the timeline you've provided, they started planning this before the wedding. The nursing home deposit was made 3 weeks after you paid the final wedding bill. They waited just long enough for your money to clear, then immediately moved to phase 2. Sarah pulled out a legal pad. Walk me through the nursing home visit again. I drove over there July 7th, the day after Ashley told me about the deposit. Spoke with the administrator, Margaret Collins. She showed me the paperwork, said a family member had toured the facility and made the deposit in person. Did she describe this family member? 5'8", brown hair, mid-20s, very polite. Claimed to be my son making arrangements for his father's care. That's Jake. That's Jake. But here's the interesting part. Margaret said he knew details about my financial situation that he shouldn't have known. My social security number, my bank account information, even the exact amount I'd received from the ranch sale. Sarah made notes. How would he have gotten that information? I've been thinking about that. The only way Jake could have known those details is if he'd been monitoring my accounts somehow, or if Ashley had used her legal connections to access information she shouldn't have. We can subpoena bank records to see if there were any unauthorized access attempts. I handed her one more folder. You might want to look at this first. Inside were printed emails between Ashley and someone named Marcus Chen at Austin Financial Services. The emails were dated 2 weeks before the wedding. How did you get these? Jake left his laptop open at my house during our argument last week. I might have accidentally seen his email when I was trying to help him find his car keys. The emails were damning. Ashley had contacted a financial planning service about managing inherited assets and expedited conservatorship procedures for elderly clients showing cognitive decline. The final email, sent June 13th, 2 days before the wedding, included this line. Client expects to receive full financial control within 60 to 90 days following family celebration. Asset value approximately $750,000 liquid plus property holdings. Sarah read the emails twice. They were planning this before they even said, I do. Gets worse. Look at the reply from Marcus Chen. The financial planner had sent Ashley a detailed breakdown of fees for elderly asset management services, including a 20% commission on successfully transferred holdings and a monthly management fee of $2,000. They weren't just planning to steal my money, I said. They were planning to pay someone else to help them do it. Sarah closed the folder. Mr. Miller, I'm going to be honest with you. This case is going to destroy your relationship with your son permanently. Sarah, my relationship with my son was destroyed the moment he forged my signature. Are you absolutely sure you want to proceed with criminal charges? I thought about Martha, about the 40 years we'd spent building something to leave our son, about the ranch I'd sold to pay for his education and his wedding. I'm sure. Then let's finish this. The annual Ranchers Association meeting at the Amarillo Civic Center was about to become something nobody expected. Saturday evening, July 20th, 237 members of the Texas Panhandle Cattlemen's Association gathered for our monthly meeting. These weren't just ranchers. We had feed suppliers, veterinarians, equipment dealers, bankers, and half the county commissioners. When you want word to spread in rural Texas, this is where you come. I'd requested 15 minutes on the agenda to discuss elder financial fraud in our community. Association President Buck Henderson thought I was going to talk about protecting seniors from phone scams and internet predators. He had no idea what was coming. Jake and Ashley showed up 20 minutes late, which told me they'd heard about my presentation through the grapevine. Ashley looked nervous. Jake looked sick. They sat in the back row, probably hoping to slip out early if things got uncomfortable. Buck introduced me at 8:15. William Miller's been a member of this association for 38 years. Served on our board, helped organize disaster relief during the drought of 2008, and just completed one of the largest ranch sales in county history. Tonight, he's going to talk about protecting our senior members from financial predators. I walked to the front with my laptop and a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. Thank you, Buck. Before I start, I want to say that everything I'm about to tell you is documented, recorded, and has been reviewed by the district attorney's office. That got everyone's attention. Phones came out. People leaned forward. 3 months ago, I sold the Miller family ranch for $847,000. 4 generations of my family had worked that land, but Martha's medical bills required the sale. I used $91,000 of that money to pay for my son Jake's wedding. I gestured toward the back of the room. Jake's here tonight, along with his wife Ashley. I want them to hear this. The room got very quiet. 2 weeks after the wedding, I discovered that someone had forged my signature to place a $23,000 deposit at Sunset Manor Nursing Home. When I confronted my son about this, he claimed I was suffering from dementia and needed immediate professional care. Murmurs started rippling through the crowd. Here's the first recording I want you to hear. I connected my laptop to the sound system and played Ashley's voice. William, you clearly can't handle complex financial decisions anymore. The nursing home deposit proves you're confused about your own affairs. Then Jake's voice. Dad, you're showing signs of confusion. Memory problems. Dr. Patterson thinks you might be developing dementia. I stopped the recording. Dr. Patterson doesn't exist. There was no medical evaluation. This was a fabricated story designed to justify stealing my remaining assets. The room was dead silent now. I could see people looking back at Jake and Ashley, who were both staring at the floor. But it gets worse. Here's what Jake told me about managing my finances. Jake's recorded voice filled the room. Well, Jake would need to take over those responsibilities, but... And here's Ashley explaining why this was necessary. Ashley's voice. William, Dr. Patterson specifically noted your tendency toward grandiose thinking about your past accomplishments. That's a classic symptom of... I stopped the playback. Grandiose thinking about my past accomplishments. 40 years of successful ranching, apparently, was just delusion. Buck Henderson spoke up from the front row. William, are you saying your son tried to have you declared incompetent? I'm saying my son and his wife developed a systematic plan to steal my money by claiming I was mentally unfit. They forged my signature multiple times, attempted to access my bank accounts illegally, and conspired with a financial planning service to manage my inherited assets. I opened my folder and pulled out the printed emails. These are communications between Ashley and Austin Financial Services, dated 2 weeks before the wedding. Quote, Client expects to receive full financial control within 60 to 90 days following family celebration. Asset value approximately $750,000, liquid plus property holdings. The murmurs got louder. Someone in the middle of the room said, Jesus Christ. They weren't planning to wait for me to die. They were planning to have me declared incompetent immediately after I paid for their wedding. Dr. Patricia Anderson stood up. She'd been treating half the people in this room for 20 years. William, I examined you in May for your annual physical. Cognitive assessment, memory tests, logical reasoning, perfect scores across the board. Anyone claiming you have dementia is either lying or has never actually examined you. Rebecca Taylor from First National Bank raised her hand. I need to add something. Last Friday, Jake and Ashley presented forged power of attorney documents to access William's accounts. The signature analysis showed clear evidence of forgery. I have security footage and handwriting expert testimony. Patricia Wilson, the photographer, stood up next. I worked with William for 3 months planning Jake's wedding. Contract negotiations, timeline management, vendor coordination. This man handled details that would challenge someone half his age. The idea that he's mentally impaired is absurd. I could see Jake trying to get Ashley to leave, but she was frozen in her seat. Sheriff Tom Bradley spoke from the side of the room. William, have formal charges been filed? As of Thursday morning, yes. The district attorney has evidence of forgery, identity theft, attempted financial fraud, and conspiracy to commit crimes against a vulnerable adult. The room erupted in conversation. People were turning around to stare at Jake and Ashley, who looked like they wanted to disappear. Buck Henderson banged his gavel. Order! William continued. Here's what I want everyone in this room to understand. Elder financial abuse doesn't just happen to confused, isolated seniors. It happens to competent people who trust their families. It happens when children decide their inheritance should come early, regardless of their parents' wishes. I looked directly at Jake. My son has a Harvard MBA. He works in financial planning. He knows exactly what constitutes fraud, and he chose to do it anyway because he thought a 62-year-old rancher couldn't fight back. Ashley finally found her voice. She stood up and shouted, This is character assassination. William is having paranoid episodes, .. Ma'am, Sheriff Bradley interrupted, you need to sit down and be quiet. You're currently under investigation for multiple felonies. Dr. Anderson spoke again. I want to make something very clear to this room. I've been practicing medicine for 25 years. William Miller shows no signs of cognitive impairment, memory loss, or diminished capacity. His mental acuity is remarkable for someone his age. Sandra Martinez, from Palo Duro, Canyon Lodge, stood up. I coordinated William's venue contract. He negotiated terms that saved him $4,000 and caught 3 errors in our standard paperwork. Does that sound like someone with dementia? Jake finally stood up. Dad, please. Sit down, Jake. You've said enough. The authority in my voice surprised even me. 40 years of managing livestock and employees doesn't just disappear. I want to end with this. I spent my life building something to leave my family. I sold 4 generations of ranch history to provide for my son's future, and 18 days after his wedding, he tried to steal everything I had left. I closed my laptop and picked up my folder. The moral of this story is simple. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. My son showed me that he's a thief who will lie, forge documents, and destroy his father's life for money. I believe him. I started walking toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Jake? The vendors you still owe $67,000? They'll be contacting their lawyers Monday morning. Turns out when you can't pay your wedding bills, people get very interested in how you tried to steal the money to cover them. The room stayed silent as I walked out. Behind me, I could hear Buck Henderson's voice. Well, I think we can skip the Treasury report tonight. 6 months later, justice had a price tag, and it was steep. Jake pled guilty to 3 felony counts: forgery, attempted fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes against a vulnerable adult. Ashley got hit harder, 5 felonies, including identity, theft, and practicing law without proper authorization in elder abuse cases. Jake's sentence, 2 years probation, community service, and full restitution of $78,412. His financial planning license was revoked permanently. Ashley lost her law license and got 18 months in county jail. Her family's law firm quietly removed her name from their partnership documents. The vendor lawsuits took another $43,000 from them in legal fees and damages. Last I heard, they're living in a 1-bedroom apartment in East Dallas. both working retail jobs to pay off their debts. As for me, I got my money back, plus interest. The ranch sale proceeds that Jake thought he'd inherit are now sitting in an account that requires two independent trustees to access. Neither trustee is related to me, but here's the thing nobody talks about in these revenge stories. I lost my son, not to death or distance, but to greed. That hurts in ways I didn't expect. Martha always said family was about more than blood. She was right. Family is about respect, trust, and putting each other's well-being above your own convenience. Jake and Ashley never understood that. Last month, I got a letter from Marcus Rodriguez, the young man who's been helping me maintain my rental property. 19 years old, works 2 jobs to support his disabled mother, never asks for anything but always shows up when I need help. The letter was handwritten, careful cursive that reminded me of Martha's penmanship. Mr. Miller, you've been more of a father to me this past year than my own dad ever was. If you ever want to officially adopt an adult son who promises never to forge your signature, I'm available. I'm thinking about it. Because here's what I learned. You can't choose the family you're born with, but you can absolutely choose the family you keep. And sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the people who betrayed you. Sometimes it's building something better with people who actually deserve it.